Greetings, loved ones, once again, in the name of the Most High. Thank you all for joining us again. And I pray that you are in good health, as it is written in the letter by Yochanan, John, that, beloved, I wish above all things that you'll be in good health and prosper even as your soul prospereth. So, I know that many of us go through situations from time to time, but the Most High understands this body is only a test. It's a temporal body, and the Most High will see us through and prepare us for the new body that is to come in the future. So once again, brothers and sisters, our topic for this evening is, of course, the spirit that's within Christmas. I'm sure by now many of us have heard the term Christmas spirit. And we've talked about this last week with all of the marketing that goes behind it, the moods that is set with the music, the lights, the fragrances. Friends become foes become friends overnight. Criminals now believe wars are put to rest for a time, and everything lines up just for that one day. And then they're all back to square one. Now, this forum, from the very beginning, HBN, Hope of Israel congregation, has been established with one goal in mind: to bring the news of regathering, to bring the news of salvation to the house of Israel, scattered throughout the whole entire earth, to the four corners of the earth. And even with that, to wake up the Gentiles who are righteous in their hearts, that they will recognize who we are as the true Israelites, humble themselves, and also prepare themselves for the kingdom to come. Because in the kingdom to come, there will be the chosen bride of the Most High, and also the servants, the bridesmaids. So, you don't have one bridesmaid, you have bridesmaids and one bride. This one bride in the future kingdom will have the maids that will benefit from her rise and her marriage. And the bridesmaid's duty is to serve. Now, it's not this type of service where, the minds, people who are full of fear, believe that you're going to break backs and you're going to strip skin and you're going to do all types of atrocities. It'll be done in righteousness, because the bridesmaids love the bride, and the bridesmaids serve the bride with love, and the relationship is such that she recognizes her role, okay, to the bride. And once that understanding has reached the Gentiles, there was no need for them to fear the future. However, there will be Gentiles that will be stubborn within their hearts. The Most High said that there's a place for them. It's called the rod of iron. And they will be crushed under feet because they refuse to submit themselves in love. They refuse to be obedient. Their agenda has always been to go against the Most High. And if they have an opportunity, they will destroy him, because the mindset of Satan, Hasatan, is in their hearts, and therefore they are the product of their father, the devil. So we set our hearts to Mount Zion. We set our hearts to return to our King, and we understand what is at stake, and we are preparing ourselves for that. So in our studies last week, we went through many things, and for those who are new to the call, I suggest you look at the previous video. So the message of salvation, we have talked about this many times, is for the house of Israel. And from the book of Genesis to the book of Revelations, everything else in between, all the other scrolls that are not included in the 66 books, is all about Israel. It's the story, the lifetime, the life story, history of a people the Most High came into covenant relationship with. And we want to rehearse again in the ears of our people who did not attend last week, the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10. It's a classic with regards to um, dealing with the ways of the Gentiles in terms of Christmas. And so we'll turn to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 10. We'll read from verses 1 and down to verses 5. And Maisha, who is here with me, she will be doing the reading. And may the Most High bless and keep you all. I hope that you all are paying close attention to this thing, as you will learn many new things. And I also have a disclaimer. Don't believe anything I say unless you take the time to verify the information for yourself. I want us to practice this because this is something that I practice myself. You know, sometimes people say things and it sounds new to you, and therefore you grab it, you hold on to it, and you don't realize if it's true or false. And so I think it's important for you to exercise your mind by doing some reading and some research on your own. So the things that I present tonight, the ones that I present throughout our studies, always go back and verify the information for yourself, because we don't want to be blind and dumb sheep. We want to be learned Israelites in the name of the Most High. So let's take a look at Jeremiah 10, verses 1 to verses 5. And go ahead and read, Isha.
Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel.
So we're talking about Israel. See? Read on.
Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven. For the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the cunning workman. The work of the hands of the workman with the axe.
The workman, as we will look at also, this is a this is a reference to an idol maker, one who designs idols, and there are different, I would say, different price range. You hire him to do a job. Those who are wealthy can shape it down to a statue, and those who were not wealthy would keep it as a solid tree. And that's the ancient practice. Now, in our time, a lot of things have been simplified into the form of a tree, just simply a tree. These are old or ancient pagan practices that the Most High were warning the house of Israel not to mimic, not to practice, not to assimilate into the mindset of the heathen. Unfortunately, we found ourselves in a very sad predicament, and we will also look at that because Moses had received the prophecy with regards to the house of Israel, that what they will go through for a time, and also the restoration for the house of Israel. So continue reading that.
They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be borne, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good.
So that's what Jeremiah said to the house of Israel with regards to, I should say, at this time, he was speaking to the southern kingdom of Israel, and the northern kingdom was already pretty much, the majority of them was already assimilated into the culture of the Assyrians, and from there on they were lost. Now let's go over to the book of Isaiah chapter 40 once again, and we'll start at verses 18. What I want to demonstrate is that the job description of the workman is such as an idol maker. So we can see that what he's dealing with is idolatry. The signs of heaven, the planets, the stars, the sun, the moon, the shapes, the round shapes that are called the planetary bodies, is miniaturized and placed around the tree, and unfortunately, these things has been a distraction for our people. Let's see what Isaiah chapter 40 says. Isaiah 40, and we'll pick it up at verses 18.
To whom then will you liken God? Or what likeness will you compare unto him?
Mm-hmm.
The workman melteth a graven image, and the goldsmith spreadeth it over with gold, and casteth silver chains.
So we can see clearly, the workman melts a graven image. The goldsmith spread it over with gold and cast chains. And sometimes you can see the chains that go around the tree, back and forth. All right? Read on.
He that is so impoverished that he hath no oblation chooseth a tree that will not rot.
That means a person who can't afford a golden image, he will choose a tree that wouldn't rot. That's an evergreen tree. Okay, one that stays even during the cold periods. You can still see green on that tree. Called the spruce, the cedar tree, pine tree, evergreen tree. I mean, these are the different types of trees. Continue.
He seeketh unto him a cunning workman to prepare a graven image that shall not be moved.
All right, that's all we need. So now we are going to go into the book of Jubilees. And we're going to read the book of Jubilees, also known as the Little Genesis, gives us, I'll tell you what, can you read the prologue so that everyone can understand what this book is about? The prologue in the book of Jubilees. Okay.
This is the history of the division of the days of the law and of the testimony of the events of the years of their weeks of their jubilees throughout all the years of the world, as the Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, when he went up to receive the tables of the law and of the commandments, according to the voice of God, as he said unto him, Go up to the top of the mount.
All right, so now let's jump down to verses 4, and let's gain some understanding to what will happen to Israel scattered among the nations. Okay, this is the prophecy with Israel's future. Go ahead and read.
Verse 4. And Moses was on the mount 40 days and 40 nights, and God taught him the earlier and the latter history of the division of all the days of the law and of the testimony. And he said, Incline your heart to every word which I will speak to you on this mount, and write them in a book, in order that their generations may see how I have not forsaken them for all the evil which they have wrought in transgressing the covenant which I established between me and you for their generation this day on Mount Sinai.
So he says, how I have not forsaken them. And today we have a philosophy or doctrine called replacement theology. Look that up. Replacement theology. It's on two fronts. In the Christian church, they teach that Israel is no longer a people and that they are removed from the covenant. Now the Most High is in the covenant with all those who just call upon his name, no matter what nationality you are. All the covenants that was made with Abraham are no longer in existence. On the second front, you have a group of people who have converted back in I think it's the 8th or 9th century in Khazaria. That's southern Russia, the middle part of Russia. And they became known as Jewish people, Khazawim. And the Khazarians themselves had learned the ways of our forefathers. They got some of our rabbis from Babylon. They got some of our rabbis from different places and were instructed in the ways of the Most High. You can look it up for yourself. Anyway, make a long story short, they became the converts to our way. And when the nation of Khazaria was no longer in existence, they mingled themselves among the rest of the Europeans. And from that point on, were known as the Jewish people. As history would have it, eventually they made their way down into the land of Israel and became known today as the Israelis. So that is pretty much the story of the two-front replacement ideology that is out there. However, the Most High is so good in showing us how we can identify the house of Israel. And the interesting thing about this, a lot of the scientists, doctors, lawyers, scholars, whatever the case may be, are starting to realize that they were wrong, and they're actually putting it out on record who the true nation of Israel are. And brothers and sisters, I am one of them. You are. We are of the house of Israel because not only did the scriptures say so, but there are also historical records to prove all that we're saying is true. Now, when we come to this understanding, you have to ask yourself a question. If the Most High is in a covenant with a certain people, and if there's a promise, benefits that come with that promise, what do I need to do? How should I live? Because in other words, brothers and sisters, this is a story about your life, my life, and your life. And our minds should be focused on how important this is. We are living this book. We are living the prophecies of this book. And so it's very important for us to really understand this thing. The things that has been happening in your life and my life is not happening just by happenstance. It's all part of the prophecy. The struggles that we go through, the discrimination that we face, and all the other things that happens throughout our life and our forefathers' lives, it's all written in this book. All you have to do is read and research for yourself. The average pastor who was set up by the nations from early times and continue to pass on a tradition, they have been teaching our people to focus only on love, and that Jesus came to save the whole world, and that type of a doctrine, which is not correct. Okay? So that's another class, and we'll continue with that another time, but for now, let's continue on with this reading. Where did you stop?
Verse 6.
All right, so verses 6.
And thus it will come to pass, when all these things come upon them, that they will recognize that I am more righteous than they in all their judgments and in all their actions, and they will recognize that I have been truly with them. And do you write for yourself all these words which I declare unto you this day. For I know their rebellion and their stiff neck. Before I bring them into the land of which I swore to their fathers, to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob, saying, Unto your seed will I give a land flowing with milk and honey. And they will eat and be satisfied, and they will turn to strange gods, to gods which cannot deliver them from aught of their tribulation.
Mm-hmm.
And this witness shall be heard for a witness against them, for they will forget all my commandments, even all that I command them, and they will walk after the Gentiles, and after their uncleanliness, and after their shame, and will serve their gods, and these will prove unto them an offense, and a tribulation, and an affliction, and a snare. And many will perish, and they will be taken captive, and will fall into the hands of the enemy, because they have forsaken my ordinances and my commandments, and the festivals of my covenant, and my Shabbats, and my holy place, which I have hallowed for myself in their midst. And my tabernacle and my sanctuary, which I have hallowed for myself in the midst of the land, that I should set my name upon it, and that it should dwell there. And they will make to themselves high places, and groves, and graven images, and they will worship each his own graven image, so as to go astray, and they will sacrifice their children to demons and to all the works of the errors of their hearts. And I will send witnesses unto them, that I may witness against them, but they will not hear, and they will slay the witnesses also. And they will persecute those who seek the law, and they will abrogate and change everything so as to work evil before my eyes. And I shall hide my face from them, and I shall deliver them into the hands of the Gentiles for captivity.
For slavery. Go ahead.
And for a prey, and for devouring. And I shall remove them from the midst of the land, and I shall scatter them among the Gentiles. And they will forget all my law and all my commandments and all my judgments, and will go astray as to the new moons and to the Shabbats and festivals and jubilees and ordinances. And after this, they will turn to me from among the Gentiles with all their heart and with all their soul and with all their strength. And I shall gather them from among all the Gentiles, and they will seek me, so that I shall be found of them, when they seek me with all their heart and with all their soul. And I shall disclose to them abounding peace and righteousness. And I shall plant them as a plant of uprightness in their land, with all my heart and with all my soul. And they will be for a blessing and not for a curse. And they will be the head and not the tail. And I shall build my sanctuary in their midst, and I shall dwell with them, and I shall be their God, and they will be my people, in truth and righteousness. And I shall not forsake them, nor fail them, for I am the Lord their God.
All right, that's great. Thank you for reading that. We can see that because of our stiff neck, our forefathers, being stubborn, that's what stiff neck really means. Being stubborn, hard-headed people. And, it's no different from today. We still have our people who have a better idea, a better plan, and they still can't figure out why they're not being successful. In their minds, success is chasing after the dream of the Gentiles and trying to achieve certain statuses among them. And brothers and sisters, that doesn't work at all. It's not for us. It has never been for us. That way of the Gentiles is a way that is leading to death. This is their world right now. Our world is the one to come. And so he says that we will be taken captive amongst all the Gentiles. Now, you really consider this, what people have been brought by force, scattered among the whole entire earth by force among the Gentiles. We can do a Jeopardy thing on that. Ding, 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 ding. And the only answer we can find is that certain people who came on the slave ships throughout the world. Okay? You go before that period of time, in the early centuries, and you'll find also other records of our people going into captivity. The Arabs sold us. The Europeans sold us. The Chinese dealt with us. All the nations had their hand in our captivity, and we just have to do the research. Now, one of the things here that I like to take a look at real quick is that he says that, this is verses 10, and many will perish, and they will be taken captive and will fall into the hands of the enemy, because they have forsaken my ordinances and my commandments, and the festivals of my covenant, and my Shabbats, and my holy place, which I have hallowed for myself in their midst. Now, when you read throughout this, when you read throughout the beginning of the covenant the Most High made with Israel, you will not find where the Most High said that I will bring you to heaven. It has always been about establishing a people to be right here on this earth. Christianity teaches that we'll go to heaven. The Most High says his plans are for this earth. So if we're going to heaven and he's coming to earth, we're going to miss him. And I don't know how we're planning on going up to heaven when he doesn't give us that at all in the scriptures. Even if it mentions being caught up in the air, it doesn't say being caught up into heaven. So Christianity have a mindset of Satan. He was kicked out from heaven and he wants to return to heaven. Throughout the Bible, we can see his mindset to return to heaven, and he has placed that same ideology that he has within himself, within the people who follow him. But those of us who understand the scriptures, we're looking to be in Zion. Okay? So now, we stopped at slide 29. Let me go right to it. Slide 29. And we covered so many things. We also looked at the fact that Yeshua, which the world knows as Jesus Christ, was not born December 25th at all. That's one of the biggest lies that has been published. We looked at shepherds in Israel are not able to dwell in wintertime because it's the wrong time of the year for shepherds to be out at night. Jacob was a perfect example in the book of Genesis where he said that the frost, the heat of the day, dealt with him, and also the frost by night was hard on him when Laban, his uncle, caused him to do something unnatural for a shepherd. And so it's impossible that the Messiah will be born in a manger, okay, out in the middle of winter in a little cave or something like that. We also explored that the whole nativity scene that we have been seeing, you know, where you have the little statuettes, the shepherds are there, the three wise men are there, and everyone is around, you know, angels are up in the sky, the stars twinkling. All that stuff is not according to the Bible. We saw that when Yeshua was born, the wise men were there. However, when he was a child, that's when when he was born, the shepherds were there. But when he became a child, the wise men were there. And so we can see clearly it was two different times that the groups came. And as a matter of fact, the Bible doesn't say if it was three wise men. They assume that because of the three gifts. All right? And we also explored that the time of year appropriate for taxes is the time when Israel has, or not just Israel, but many of the nations within that particular part of the world brings in all the crops for that season. Whether you're in Rome, Greece, Turkey, or any of the provinces that were under the Roman jurisdiction, they those parts of the world are very cold, and crops are brought in and sold in the marketplace, and people pretty much wrap things up for that year and rest and prepare themselves for the year to come. So the Romans had their calendar set to collect taxes at that appropriate time of the year. Okay, so December 25th, the crops were already picked and everything was over. All right. So our modern science that can produce tomatoes on the vine during the wintertime because of genetic splicing, that's not the way it was in the ancient world. Okay? So we need to be able to adjust culture of that time and read things within that culture, that period of time to understand. And that's plenty on that. So we also saw that there are different deities of Yule. We looked at the term Yule, and that's a pagan term that pertains to the different gods and goddesses that are out there, their birth time, and as a matter of fact, the Yule goes back to the Oak King, known as the Horned One or the Green Man. He is known to have horns on his head, like deer antlers, and different things like that. So let's continue on. Now, this same Oak King, all right, let me go back for a second. This same Oak King is also known as the Horned One. The Horned One. The same Oak King is where we get Santa Claus from. Many people don't know this, but the character of Santa Claus goes right back to the same Oak King. All right? So, this Oak King was actually borrowed from another deity known as Pan, P-A-N, Pan. Now let's read a little bit about this Pan creature. Pan, which is Greek, is the companion of nymphs, god of shepherds and flocks, of mountain wilds, hunting and rustic music. Hunting and rustic music. Let me go back for 1 second. Now, this same Oak King is also known as a hunter. He's also known as a hunter. So, Pan is also known as the god of hunting and rustic music. That's why you have the term pan flutes, okay? His name originates from the word pain, which means to pasture. He has the hinder quarter legs, the horns of a goat, in the same manner as a fawn, F-A-U-N. It says he seduced by wrapping himself in sheepskin. He seduced by wrapping himself in sheepskin. So he's a goat man, goat-footed man, wraps himself in sheepskin. It's known that he blows on pipes. He inherited his mother's gift of prophecy. His mother's gift of prophecy. Pan was merely one form of a horned god who was worshipped across Europe by a witch cult. Okay? Also, the same goat-footed man was known to be a homosexual. Okay? Now, if you notice, if you can see the picture that I have on the screen, you'll see that this goat-foot man has his arms around a naked boy. There's a statue. His hands is around a naked boy, and while the boy is focusing on the flutes, the goat is focusing on him. Okay? That's a homosexual intent. And this is one of the reasons we have a sanitized version of Santa's lust for little children or dealing with little children. Goes right back to pedophilia and things like that. Now, some years ago, there was an ad placed by Apple. And I thought it was pretty interesting. When I saw this ad, I had to make a note of it and put it in my files, because this ad shows it was like a competitive commercial where Apple computer was versus Bill Gates PC computer at the time when Bill Gates was still head of the PC firm. What is that? Windows that he was dealing with. And you had Steve Jobs, was a thin guy. They marketed a competition or a little ad showing that Santa Claus was in the middle of the two of them, as you can see on the screen. And if you notice Santa Claus, of course he has the red suit and he has green gloves. Now that goes back to the horn god, because originally the horn god wore a green outfit. Okay, they transitioned that green outfit from the color of the woods and the forest, a hunter of the forest, hunter green, into that red color. Okay, the color of the Catholic bishops. Now, if you notice in his hand, on his right hand, he has what you call a pan flute. So what in the world? Because I've never seen any type of advertisement or commercial or anything in my memories where the Jingle Bell songs was sung, or any of the festivities for the holiday was sung, and a pan flute was used. I can't recall that at all. Maybe you all have seen something like that. But I thought it was pretty interesting that they had this pan flute, which is a flute that was used for seduction to lure someone into a trap. The Pied Piper, I thought it was very interesting that when I saw this Santa Claus between these two giants of technology, and here he is with a pan flute. The pan flute connects back to Pan. Let's move on to our next slide. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so now let's also look at a Coca-Cola connection. All right, so if you can see the screen, you'll notice something very interesting. This is an ad put out by Coca-Cola, and the imagery is very interesting. You have on my far right an image of a giant horned-looking god. He has what looks like probably children. One in his left hand. He has a staff, probably the size of a tree, in his right hand. And on his horns, he has bodies tied to his horns. He has a long beard, and he's walking through the woods. Right in the middle, we have another horned creature. He's wearing an outfit similar to Santa Claus with the mitts on. And he's sitting on a throne of baby skulls. Victims, okay? He's sitting on a throne of skulls. Over on my left side, you have another creature with horns. Now, all of these creatures have horns. These men have horns and beards, okay? The first one was naked. The second one in the middle has a suit on. And the third one has a suit on with mitts. And he has children in a boiled-in cauldron. Okay? So now let's read what it says about this commercial. Now, there's a word here that I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, but it's called julupoki, or the Yule goat. The Yule goat is a Finnish ingredient in the origin soup that is Santa Claus. Modern julupiki closely resembles the Santa we know, but traditionally he was more of a giant goat who begged for Christmas scraps and maybe terrorized the children. The guy at Coca-Cola who solidified our Santa Claus imagery was actually the son of Finnish immigrants. Let me read that again. The guy at Coca-Cola who solidified our Santa Claus imagery, the drawings that you find of Santa Claus that was put out there, the person behind that was the son of Finnish immigrants. This leads me to believe that there are rough drafts of a giant goat gulping down the brown bubbly stuff somewhere. Damn focus groups keep us from giant goat creatures. So that was pretty interesting when I saw this article. Let's move on to another piece. We'll come back to this creature. We'll break it down a little bit later on. Now, the idea of a mother with child is nothing new. We find this is also part of the imagery of Christmas. You have the mother with the infant wrapped in swaddling clothing that we find within the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah. But we find that throughout the world there are also images of goddesses with an infant nursing at the breast. And these are counterfeits to the truth of the Most High, the truth about the Messiah. All of these counterfeits throws many people off to believe that, Christianity or believing in the Messiah is only a story that was borrowed from ancient paganism. No, brothers and sisters, this statue with the mother and child goes originally to Babylon, the Tower of Babel, with Tammuz. The story is, in brief, Nimrod married his mother. Now, when he married his mother, she was the queen of heaven at that time. She was the queen of the occult. And it so happened that Nimrod was killed. Now, she was being pregnant, went into hiding as far as the traditional story or the historical story is concerned. And when she came out from hiding, she claimed that the sun, the S-U-N, gave her this son, S-O-N. She was pregnant. And this child was called Tammuz. Now, from that particular point, it was considered to be a miracle. And the practice during the time of Babel was passed on with the scattering of the people throughout the whole entire earth. The people who traveled this earth brought with them the same root in their own language and their own style throughout the whole earth. And that's a complete different topic. But no matter what country you go in, whether it's China, India, North America, whatever it is, you'll find this this imagery of a woman with a child, and it's always on the breast. Okay. So now, this is a postcard, I would say, on my right side, you have a picture of the Madonna and child. That's the Catholic version of Mary, of course, and Jesus, right? And she has a halo, which is a symbol of deity around her head. That's also a practice from Mithraism, which is a pagan practice of mother and child worship, sun worship. And also the little baby has a sun symbol around his head. Now, if you look to the left, you'll see a postcard that says, Blessed Yule. Also, a mother, she's in red. She also has, not by happenstance, but she also has green gloves. Green gloves, okay? And the child has a solar system around his head. Planets, okay? In the middle of winter. In the top corner, you can see it says WiccanCountess.com. In other words, witches, or Wiccan or witches, okay? This is a picture straight from the witches. You go to that site, they will plainly tell you that the practice of the mother and child festivity, also known as Yuletide or the nativity scene, that's our practice. So they're letting you know that this is a practice of witches or witchcraft. This is the origin, brothers and sisters. All right? Let's continue on. So we can see the similarity between the two. And they're not hiding from this, okay? Here again, we can see another statue. Once again, on the right, statue of the Madonna and child. And on the left, you have Egyptian statue of a mother and child. Okay? So it's nothing new under the sun. Let's go to our next slide. This is an image, a statue of Diana from Ephesus. In the book of Acts, can you get that for me, please? The book of Acts, where it says, the whole world worshiped Diana. Now, the name is called Diana, but she's also known as Astarte, Easter. She is known as the mother of all the religions. And it's not a coincidence that she's also known as the mystery, the woman of mysteries. All right? It goes right back to Nimrod's mother, also known as, I think it's Semiramis or Semiramis. That's her name, Semiramis. You can look that up. And this is a statue that honors her. Now, let me explain what you're looking at here. On the top of her head is a tower which connects us back to the origin of who she is, the origin of Babel, the Tower of Babel. Around her head, there is a solar symbol. And if you look at her chest, you can notice that she has many breasts, okay? Meaning that she feeds all the nations with her lies, with the milk. The milk symbolizes the word, okay? Now, if you notice that the color of her complexion is bronze or black, because historically speaking, the people of Iraq back in those times were people of color. That's where Abraham lived, and that's when Nimrod. Nimrod came from the seed of Ham, Cush. He was a Cushite. Okay? In other words, he was a man of color. So therefore, his mother was also a woman of color. Now, of course, over the years, when the Europeans took their place in world history, they have whitened the images to represent or to reflect their control over the world. But when you look at ancient history, you'll see that most of the statues, almost all of them, were dark complexion, because that was the origin of the peoples in those parts of the world. So there you go. You can see the statue. Her hands are wide open. She's like showing you she's accepting all things. All right. So let's move to our next slide. So now let's get a little bit into understanding this deities of Yule, because there's a song that says "Have a merry little Christmas," and in that song it says something about the Yule tide. You can look that up. The Yule tide. Now, if it says Yuletide, look up that word. So you're singing a Christmas carol that mentions the word Yule, and that word Yule actually goes back to witchcraft, people who practice witchcraft. The deities of Yule. Who is the Oak King? He is known by many names. He's known as the Lord of the Greenwood, the Green Man, Herne the Hunter, the Lord of the Wild Hunt. And if you look at the picture on the right, you can see that his ears are like a deer's ears, and he has horns on his head, and he has a smirk on his face. Okay? Esau, that's right. Let's continue on. Activities of Yule. Now, part of the activities of Yule are known as caroling, singing carols, wassailing the trees, burning the Yule log, decorating the Yule tree, exchanging of presents, kissing under the mistletoe, honoring Kris Kringle, the Germanic pagan god of Yule. Kris Kringle, also known as the Germanic pagan god of Yule. Now, what throws people off is that you find different names. You see the same symbols, same woman with a child, same, guy with the horns, but you find different names. Well, you see, when the people were scattered into these nations, they brought the same customs, but they put it in their own language. So you may be thinking, well, there's nothing wrong with such and such, but you don't realize it's the same source. Same stream connecting back to that poisonous pond or river or whatever you want to call it. Pit. Okay? Now, the coin that you see on the screen here is a coin with an inscription of Alexander the Greek. Notice that he has a horn above on his coming out of his head. The goat's horn, okay? Because in the scriptures, the Bible says that Greece was that goat. The Grecian Empire was that goat that attacked the Medes and the Persians. Okay? Let's continue on. All right, now, let's take a look at this picture. This is pretty interesting. From Green Man to Santa Claus. So now we're going to see the transition in from the green man, the one who wore a green coat, which of course depicted the forest that he came from, the wild man, the man of the hunt. From green man to Santa Claus. As you can see on the right side, there's a picture that I found. It's called Old Father Christmas. The man has a log on his back, hence the Yule log, okay? Log on his back. He has I guess it's the ivy on his head, like a crown. He has a bowl in his hand, and he has a staff in his hand. And he has an outfit that looks like Santa Claus. But he says in the writing, Old Father Christmas. Now on the left side, we find the green man. He has a staff. He has a green outfit. He also has the same mistletoe on his head. Okay, and he's sitting next to a furnace, like a chimney furnace, okay? And there is a little elf next to him. So it goes back to the origins of Santa Claus. Let's continue on. Let's look at another slide. Now, let's look at this card that was put out there. It says, wishing you a Merry Christmas. The interesting thing about this picture is that the man who is depicted as Santa Claus, he is in an all green outfit. The hat that he's wearing is green, with the white brim around the head. He has a 5-pointed star on his forehead. Okay, he also has deers. So we have the deers with the antlers, which the green man once had. So it's no longer on his head, but the deers are there, symbolically putting all that together. It goes back to the same pagan culture, all right? And he's on a sleigh bringing gifts. But the outfit that he's wearing is green. Let's move on to our next slide. Now, I asked this question here. Which one is Santa? Which one is Christian? Now, can you see it? Okay. Which one is Santa and which one is Christian? Because, of course, whichever one you choose, you're going to say, well, they're both Santa Claus and they're both Christian. Well, if you take this image and you look it up, you'll see one of them is projected as Christian. That's the one in red. And the other one that's covered in green fruits all over his body with the same glasses is not the Santa Claus that we have been told. He is the same green man of the forest, the horned one. Horned one, brothers and sisters. The goat goes back to the devil. Okay? These things are just sanitized and brought to us and sold to us as a product. All right, let's move on to our next slide. St. Nicholas to Santa Claus. All right, let's look at a little history. First of all, St. Nicholas was supposed to be a bishop at 17. It was noted that he saved a sailor, that he also walked on water. He walked in water, okay? That he also restored life, was so popular that more European churches bore his name than the apostles. He was also made the patron saint of banking. Who was also called Kris Kringle. Let's look at that for a minute. He's a bishop at 17. That's not according to Scripture. He saved a sailor walking on water. So that means that he is like Christ, right? Okay. So he's like the Messiah. He's a messianic figure. He restored life. That's a messianic figure. He was more popular than apostles that his name was all over the churches in Europe. He was also known as the patron saint, the guardian of money, banks, and money. He was also called Kris Kringle, the same Kris Kringle that the Germans worship as the green man or the horn one. That is very interesting Because what do we find about Christmas? We find money, saving up your money to give it away. We find that the merchants becoming wealthy. We see that, I mean, we can go on and on and on and on. And we can see that this man is so popular that you don't have to believe in Jesus, but you can have a very good Merry Christmas or Happy Holiday. Why? Because you can have one of those little fellas and you'll be good with the system. Now take a look at the picture on the screen. It says St. Nicholas at the bottom. Pay very close attention to what you're looking at. On the screen, first of all, the picture is shaped like a phallic symbol. Phallic, also known as a penis. That's the first thing. The same shape that you find in many of the churches. The windows, the way that it's shaped, okay? That's the first thing. He has a Christian cross on his head. That's the bishop. He's called St. Nicholas. He has toys on his back. Now look at his companions. Right by his left side. Who's on his left side? It's the devil, a little imp. A red imp. Horns with ears like a goat. Goat feet. He also has a little fork-like type thing in his hand, in his left hand, left angel, not the right angel, left. And there are little children, little boy and a little girl that's in front, and they're right behind these children. Brothers and sisters, it doesn't take much to explain the theme or the spirit that's behind Christmas. It's going to get more shocking as we go through. Pay close attention. That's right, pedophilia. Let's look at this next slide. Santa myth. According to Langer's Encyclopedia of World History, the article is called Santa. It says, quote, Santa, unquote, was a common name for Nimrod throughout Asia Minor. Let me read it again. Santa was a common name for Nimrod throughout Asia Minor. Can you get Nimrod in Genesis for me, please? This was also the same fire god who came down the chimney of the ancient pagans, and the same fire god to whom infants were burned and eaten in human sacrifice among those who were once God's people. There's a reason why children are connected so tightly with this festivity. Every time our people bring their children and get them involved in these things, you are acting out the role of a sacrifice. Leaving food at the chimney because Santa is going to come down the chimney is an offering to a false god. It's a sacrifice. You're leaving an offering unto a demon that you allow to come through into your house, into your home. The whole thing is a lie, brothers and sisters. Roots are very, very deep. Let's go to the book of Genesis. What chapter? 10. The book of Genesis, chapter 10, and verses 8. Okay, let's take a look at, and then we'll switch over to the book of Genesis, chapter 11 also, and get some understanding. So let's pick it up at verses 8.
And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord.
Now, hold on a second. Look at what we have looked at before. The horned man, the green man, was called a hunter. A hunter. According to what this encyclopedia is saying, Santa Claus is known as Nimrod. Continue reading.
Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar.
Okay. Now, so we can see that the beginning of his kingdom was Babel. Let's go over to chapter 11 and verses 1.
And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar. And they dwelled there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men build. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do.
This is the first skyscraper. And if you notice carefully, the Most High didn't feel too happy about this project. And it was a sign of greatness and defying the Most High, trying to reach up to heaven. There's a lot more behind this. We won't have time to cover it. But it's a sign of rebellion. As a matter of fact, the word Nimrod in Hebrew is marad. And it means to rebel, to fight against, to rebel, okay? And the Bible says which disobedience is as a sign of witchcraft. Rebellion is as the sign of witchcraft. Thank you. Rebellion or marad is a sign of witchcraft. Read on.
Verse 7. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city.
So the history is that the people were scattered. They brought with them the astrology system that they learned throughout the whole earth in the different languages, because they all started off as one language, but they were scattered into these different languages. That's why you can find pyramids in Egypt, pyramids in China, pyramids all over the earth, okay, with the same building structure and things like that. That's why we have also a capstone pyramid type thing right in front of DC, okay? Read on.
Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth.
Now we're looking at Jolly Saint Nick. That's another term for Santa Claus. And you'll find it very interesting, the term Nick, okay? You probably heard the term nickname, a nick of time, a nickel, nick, this, that. When you get a little cut, you nick yourself. Brothers and sisters, it goes back to the devil himself. Let's read. Today's Santa Claus comes from, quote, St. Nicholas, unquote, end quote. Washington Irving in 1809 is responsible for remaking, let me read that again, Washington Irving, back in 1809, is responsible for remaking the original old stern bishop of this same name into the new Jolly Saint Nick. If you look at the picture on the screen on the right side, well, the only picture that's there, you can see the same imagery. The Jolly Saint Nick, he's a fat belly guy, and he has all these toys all around him, pipe in his hand, and I don't know how he can be an influence for children. He's smoking a pipe. Okay. So what they're saying here is that the image was transformed back in 1809 into what we have today. It's a progression. The devil is changing his clothes and changing his appearance as an angel of light to the people. Let's look at Saint Nick. Who really is jolly old Saint Nick? The name Santa Claus is derived from Sinterklaas, the Dutch name for the character based on St. Nicholas or Saint Nick for short. Now let's look at the definition for the word Nick. Old Nick. Look it up in your dictionary. Old Nick. Remember, he's jolly old Saint Nick, right? Old Nick. Nick, or Old Nick, is a well-known appellation of the devil. Let me read it again, and I'll read it slow. Nick, or Old Nick, is a well-known appellation of the devil. The name appears to have been derived from the Dutch Nikken, Nikken, the devil, which again comes from the Anglo-Saxon word nakan, nak-an, to slay. For the Watcher says the devil was a murderer from the beginning. In the northern countries, there is a spirit river named Neck, or Nike, Nike, the swoosh that you find on the shoe, or Noke, of the same nature as the water kelpie and the merman, or the merman of Triton. Triton is the god of the water. Stuff goes deep. It goes into all kinds of paganism. Old Nick, pronunciation Old Nick, function noun. The date of this term, 1643, used as a name of the devil. So, when you nick yourself, you get a cut. It's as if you got a sacrifice. You hurt yourself, right? You slayed yourself. That's the devil. A nickname, which is a false name, not a real name, but a false name, because the devil has many names. Where does that term come from? Okay, think about that. So, the show called Nickelodeon, nickel is 5 cents. Among the pagans, 5 pentagram is also a very powerful symbol in witchcraft. 5, number 5, okay? Now, there's a picture that I found very interesting, and I'm sure you can see it by now. It shows a picture of, can't see it? Not yet, okay. It shows a picture of Santa Claus with goat feet, removing his face, his false face, or his nickname. And behind the mask, you can see his face with little horns in his forehead. He is the devil, dressed in red. He has a staff to lead children away. Do you see that? The horned statue, or the horned image of Satan, bringing gifts to entice, and bells and different things like that. And you can see his tail swinging out from behind his back. Brothers and sisters, we're not playing with anything innocent. This has a long history of paganism. Let's go to our next slide. Santa Claus is known to have elves. Is that correct? Let's look at the history. Let's look at the definition of an elf. An elf, noun. A small, often mischievous creature considered to have magical powers. Also known as a lively, mischievous child. A small, often mischievous creature considered to have magical powers. Brothers and sisters, we're not dealing with anything natural here. We're talking about supernatural stuff here. Supernatural. Now, let's dig a little deeper, because sometimes if you really want to find the truth, you got to really dig to find the truth, right? Now, it says that the word elf also refers to mischievous, a being with magical powers, right? There's also another word that is used by definition. It's called an imp. An imp is a little mischievous creature, right? This is what it says, noun. A little devil, That's the word imp, little devil. Or demon, an evil spirit. Number 2, a mischievous child.
Usually, the children from where I came from, they give them nicknames based on the mischievous little things that they used to do.
For example?
For example, if they do, little troublesome thing, they would call them, you know, in the language that I come from, I can't say it because they wouldn't understand.
Okay.
So
So,
usually that's what they would do. When you do mischievous little thing, they give you nicknames based on the little trouble things that children used to do. They will give them little nicknames.
mm-hmm.
That's where that comes from, really.
So an elf is a mischievous creature that has magical powers. Magic comes from the devil, brothers and sisters. To have powers is dealing with angels, fallen angels. So you got the imps. Now, if Satan is the head devil, who do you think the imps are that serve Satan? His whole crew, the fallen angels, those of lesser power than Satan. Imp, a little devil or demon, an evil spirit. If an imp is a little devil, who do you suppose is the big one? Well, Santa Claus, we looked at already, is the big devil himself. That's why he's always in red. All right, Kris Kringle or Christ. Now, this image that I have on the screen depicts Santa Claus as being sacrificed on a cross. All of the gifts that he has to give to the world. He's bringing gifts to the world, joy to the world. His sacrifice is so great, he's actually as Christ Kringle on a cross. It's amazing. And he has his fat belly exposed for the world to see. Now, there's also another image that many of you all are not familiar with, but you can look it up and research for yourself. Originally, Santa Claus didn't have reindeers riding on or have reindeers pulling his carriage, but originally he rode a goat. The goat was the vehicle that he rode on. Goes back to Satan. So we have a picture, black and white picture, of the original Santa Claus riding on a goat, and the goat has a kind of a like crafty smile. Santa Claus, which is the Yule man or the horn man, has a basket. It looks like he has a child that he kidnapped in his arm. Big old bowl of porridge or something is in his hand, some bowl, and he's riding a goat. And then when you look over to the other picture in the color, you can see that it's been sanitized to the degree where he still is riding a goat, and he has these toys all in his hand and a doll. Okay, and yes, Kiefer, we'll get into that that area about the movie Krampus, okay, because that's also part of our study. All right, so let's move on. The Yule goat. Let's look at the story behind the goat that Santa Claus originally used to ride. Remember, he's a goat-footed man. He transformed himself, dropped the goat feet, and now he's riding a goat. And then he dropped the goat, and now he has a reindeer. Before he had deer's horn, he was wearing a green coat. Now he's wearing a red coat with green gloves, and they keep switching him up. They keep remarketing him into different pictures. So now, the Yule goat is one of the oldest Scandinavian. That's a Gentile, right? Scandinavia, that's Northern Europe. And Northern European Yule and Christmas symbols and traditions. Its origins might go as far back as to pre-Christian days, where goats were connected to the Norse god Thor, who rode the sky in a wagon drawn by two goats. I can't even pronounce the name, so I wouldn't even try. In Finland, the Yule goat was originally said to be an ugly creature that frightened children and demanded gifts at Christmas. This tradition would have the goat replaced with the jeweled tomati or Santa Claus at the end of the century, and the tradition of the man-sized goat had disappeared. So before, it was a goat-footed man, or a goat that was the size of a man, a real huge one, and that eventually disappeared. Up till the 20th century, people thought of the Yule goat as an invisible creature that would appear sometime before Christmas to make sure that the Yule preparations were done right. So an invisible creature, what would you call an invisible creature? What would you say? A spirit. A spirit. An invisible creature is an angel of darkness, a ghost or a spirit. That goes to show that we're not dealing with anything natural, it's supernatural. There's a real spirit behind this Christmas festivity. Let's move to our next slide. In Hollywood, we can see that witches used to use a wand. They would cast spells using wand and stuff. Well, Hollywood is called Hollywood. The term Hollywood came from the term holly wood. The holly was a type of wood that were used to cast spells. Witches used the holly tree, or the wood from the holly wood, to cast spells. That's the reason why we have a place that has the magic of Hollywood casting spells on the whole world. Okay? Witches and other pagans regarded and revered the Hollywood as a symbol of menstrual blood of the Queen of Heaven, also known as Diana. The white berries represented the semen of the male god. Okay? So you have the white berries and you have the red symbol, symbolizing the menstrual blood of the goddess that they worship. Both holly and the mistletoe were hung in the doorways of temples and homes to invoke the powers of fertility, that's sex, having intercourse, right? In those who stood beneath and kissed, causing the spirits of the god and goddesses to enter them. So when you come under the mistletoe, the holly and the mistletoe, which is hung above the door, and you perform this kissing rite, you are causing spirits of the world worship, the gods that they worship, to come into your body. You are making yourself available to be possessed by demons, brothers and sisters. That's why no matter who comes underneath that thing, whether it's your husband, wife, or not your husband or wife, or whoever the case may be, the kiss is just a kiss, is just a kiss. That's why the song says, I saw Mama kissing Santa Claus. Why was Mama kissing Santa Claus? Where was Daddy? So, in other words, brothers and sisters, we're talking about demon possession here. This is not a joke. This is serious business. People think and make this thing as fun and games, but we're not playing with games. Let's look at the wreath. The Advent wreath is part of our long-standing Catholic tradition. It's a Catholic tradition, brothers and sisters. In Scandinavia during winter, lighted candles were placed around a wheel and prayers were offered to the God of light to turn the wheel of the earth back toward the sun to lengthen the days and restore warmth. Let me read it again. The beginning of the Advent, the birth of the wreath, is part of our long-standing Catholic tradition. In Scandinavia during wintertime, lighted candles were placed around a wheel and prayers were offered to the God of light to turn the wheel of the earth back toward the sun to lengthen the days and restore warmth. The circular Advent wreath and its candles were pre-Christian, a pagan practice absorbed into Christian observances. Like many pagan rites, Christian conversion spread across Europe. Pagan origin, use of Advent wreath by Linder Ashar. Let's go to our next slide. Now, let me just speak real briefly on wreaths, because when you dig a little deeper into wreaths, brothers and sisters, what you're going to find is that wreaths are something placed on the dead for graves. You know, when soldiers die, they place a wreath. They place a wreath of flowers or wreath on the gravestones. Well, that's because it connects back to death. It has nothing to do with life, but it all pertains to death. All of these things, brothers and sisters, are pagan practices, all of these things. And that's why the Most High says, learn not the way of who? The heathen. Don't learn the way of the heathen. Yeah.
That is why it's Christmas, which is a celebration of the dead. That's why Mass represents
exactly.
The dead. It's a celebration of the dead.
Celebration of the dead. We talked about this last week.
Yeah.
Christ, what does the birth of Christ and the death, a Mass, which is the celebration of the dead, have to do with the birth of Christ? It's a contradiction. It makes no sense. I'm going to celebrate the birthday and the death in one festivity. When midnight hits, I go out and I do a Mass, and then I celebrate the birthday. And the Mass is normally done, midnight on December 24th? So you celebrate the death before the birth of Christ, Christmas morning. Does that make any sense at all? As a matter of fact, I'm going to pause for a moment. Does anyone have any comments that they'd like to share or any questions so far?
I don't have really a comment, but what I'm saying is you really come and go with this teaching. You know, I really enjoying it, because all these things, I know that, but it is a good thing that you bring this thing out to the school, so that the student will learn these things. You know, it is very important, because in this walk, we all are walking together to worship the Lord in spirit and in truth. All this pagan custom that the world have, or that is teaching in churches, that it is a good thing that you brought it up. That all those who have the Christmas tree and all these other things taking part of it, that they will decline from that when they come to know that they are really Israel. So I'm very glad you brought it up. Thank you.
Thanks, Elder.
So far, you're doing good.
Amen. Thank you.
I'm listening.
All right. I want to I'd like to read something in the book of Jubilees again, and this is just verses 1 and verses 2. Just verses 1 and 2, okay? Now, it goes into something about the sons of Noah after the flood. What happened on the spiritual world or the spiritual realm. Let's see what it says. Okay?
Okay, verse 1. And in the 3rd week of this Jubilee, the unclean demons began to lead astray the children of the sons of Noah, and to make to err and destroy them. And the sons of Noah came to Noah their father, and they told him concerning the demons which were leading astray and blinding and slaying his sons' sons. And he prayed before the Lord his God and said.
Okay, we don't want to go into all of it, but I wanted to demonstrate that the demons were unleashed on this earth. The Most High had actually prophesied, through Moses, had made mention that that the rest of the sons of Noah was going to be led astray by spirits We talked about this last week. You can go back and review that. And we can see how this was happening. But he says, as far as Israel is concerned, he himself is going to direct Israel. All of the nations are going to be persuaded by the different demons. And the Most High was simply saying, listen, I have taken you out from among the sons of Adam, Israel, and I'm going to be yours, and you're going to be mine. The rest of the nations are operating with different demons. And he allowed it to be so for a reason. And if we step outside of his protection, we will fall under the same spell as the other nations. So a lot of things happen on the spiritual world that when we look at it, we really don't understand how deep this thing is and why we need to really stay away from touching the unclean thing. Not having anything to do with these customs. Okay? So now let's continue on, and I have on the screen here tree worship. Once again, you can see the Christmas tree, and on the top of it, you can find a star. Not just any star, but a pentagram. Pentagrams are normally found among the Wiccans or witches. On the left side, you find a well-organized pentagram of not just the star, but you can see how the branches or the leaves of the evergreen tree, and it's always the evergreen tree, is interwoven into this pentagram, showing the symbolic nature or connection, all right, to the old pagan cults. Now, we already read in the book of Jeremiah, once again it says, to learn not the ways of the heathen, that the workman, okay, goes out into the woods and he cuts an evergreen tree. And we looked at the term workman in the book of Isaiah, that it's connected to idol makers, people who create idols. All right? So now, let's peel back some pages, some layers to see where this thing, or who's the spirit that's behind this a little deeper. It's called Krampus. Krampus. And now we're going to examine the seducing spirits and the doctrines of these devils. Okay? Let's take a look at this thing closely. Now, Krampus, there is a festivity card or festival card, a holiday card that you can find in Europe. Now, as I said before, don't take my word for it. Please do your own research. You can go to YouTube, type in Krampus, Krampus, and you'll find a lot of history behind who this creature is. Now, according to the Christmas festivity, there's a saying that Santa Claus knows if you're naughty or if you're nice. So be good for goodness sake, right? You better watch out. You better watch out. Now, these sayings are not something fun and festive. It's actually, there's a history. There are always histories behind certain terms and certain things that the Gentiles push out. Let me give you an example. When people sneeze, the first thing that follows is God bless you. I've shared with you all before that that's a pagan practice, because in the old country of Europe, the old world of Europe, as it says, they believe that when a person sneezes, their bodies are opened for demon possession. So in order to stop the demons from coming in when you sneeze, because you're vulnerable at that time, the gate is open, someone must say, God bless you, to protect you from being possessed by demons. So that's something you can look up for yourself. And you'll find that these cultures, these customs from the heathen, we have gotten so accustomed to that we don't even know the origin of these things. We just go along with it. We say, okay, God bless you, God bless you. They can sneeze like 1,000 times. It can be a wicked person, and they say, thank you. How can God bless you when you're so evil and wicked? And a sneeze is going to cause the Most High to bless you? So now, Krampus. When you look at this card, you can see clearly the connection. The naughty part of Santa Claus is a demon, a goat-headed creature with his tongue sticking out. I'm not sure if you all have ever seen Miley Cyrus, images of her with her tongue sticking out. And normally, she would have her hair fashioned in such a way that it appears to be two horns on her head. Two horns on her head. Okay? So we find that Krampus has a list. Krampus is a demon. He has a list in his hand looking to see who is naughty or nice. And he's also sharing the same list with Santa Claus. They switch roles, like the good cop, bad cop, but it's the same police. Okay? Let's move on. Horror for the Holiday meets the Anti-Santa by Peter Crimmins by NPR News. There are no Christmas lights for Janet Finnegar's house. Instead, hundreds of rib bones, RIB bones, left over from a neighborhood barbecue hang on a clothesline. She will drape the bones over herself and wear them like a grisly tunic. It's her Krampus costume. The Krampus is a character from European Alpine folklore, common in Austria and Switzerland. The creature stands on two hooves and has horns growing out of his skull. An extremely long tongue hangs out of his mouth, and it carries a basket to haul away naughty children. For hundreds of years, the Krampus and St. Nicholas have worked a kind of good cop, bad cop routine. St. Nick rewards the good children. Krampus terrorizes the bad. Around the country, there are Krampus parties and club nights in December where people dress in leftover Halloween costumes to drink and dance. Do you all see the connection between Halloween, which goes into the festivity of Thanksgiving, and right into Christmas, brothers and sisters? The devil has his hands well deep into the system, and our people love to have it so. Our people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Let's move on to our next slide. Let's look at Krampus, a brief history, so that you can understand what we're dealing with here. Let's peel away the Santa Claus and get right to the source. Krampus is one of those quirky survivals of a pagan tradition that preceded Christianity, much like Santa himself. Santa Claus is a Christianization of a handful of traditional winter solstice figures who morphed, that means to change, into St. Nicholas after the Catholics swarmed into Austria. In other words, brothers and sisters, this is nothing but a baptized form of paganism or witchcraft, evil, demonic practices. Something morphed, mixed with the names of the saints, the names of the Catholic Church, blended together into one soup and fed to the masses. Let's continue on. Let's continue on with the brief history of Krampus. Santa was most heavily influenced by the Norse Thor, who had a long white beard and cheerfully rode a flying chariot. The enemy of good in Norse mythology was Loki. Loki was a devil trickster figure with big horns, the big horns, right? While the noble Thor was a good candidate for transformation into a Christian saint, Loki was not so much. But all gods never die, they just fade away. The lingering image of Loki became part of the template for Krampus. That's why you find the movie The Avengers, which shows that Thor was the good guy with a hammer, and he was fighting Loki, which is his brother. And Loki had these huge horns, and Loki was all in green. Hint, 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 green. Like the green horn god. Okay? And the costume of Thor is usually a red top also. Red and black. All right, so let's move on. There are two takes on Krampus, one being a secular humanist approach and the other being a magic tradition angle. On December 5th, on the eve of the feast of Saint Nick, Austrians, that's people from Austria next to Germany, celebrate Krampus by running across the city in grotesque masks, and generally scaring children. This is an extension of the good cop, bad cop theory. Saint Nick makes his rounds on December 6th, rewarding all the good little children, a task which is made easy since Krampus has been out the night before, punishing pretty much the same children with a good switching. Now, you can see on the left side a picture of the Grinch, the Christmas Grinch. Okay. Dr. Seuss, the Grinch who stole Christmas, I think it's called. And you have this horned creature that's green with a switch snatching up children. Okay. And so we watch these things and we think, oh, it's so funny. It's just, fun and games. But brothers and sisters, this is just poison. Sacrificing the children. Let's continue on. Krampus, a brief history. Krampus is one of Santa's minions who follows along obediently, passing out presents or switches, depending on the moral turpitude of the child in question. Presumably, this would make the pointy-eared Krampus kind of a template of Santa's elves. In other words, brothers and sisters, Santa's elves is nothing more than little demons. Okay, we already talked about that. All right. Then all the adults go out and get drunk. And much hilarity ensues, laughter ensues, right? The other interpretation of Krampus is more mystical, magical, mystical, right? That's dealing with the spirit realm. Under this theory, people dress up in hideous masks of Krampus in order to scare off evil spirits. Now, what you're looking at on the right side of the screen is a picture of a woman meeting a spirit, a goat spirit, in the woods, and she's rubbing noses and kissing the spirit under a tree. This is a Gentile having relations with a demon. Let's move on to our next slide. One of the relative benefits of paganism over Christianity is that paganism usually has holidays devoted to wild, orgiastic excess. In other words, brothers and sisters, orgies, wild parties where you come to the Christmas party, you get drunk, you go to the back room in the office, you have sex with your coworkers, the boss, whatever the case may be. The boss becomes a servant, you become the boss, and the chocolates are full of liquor in it. The drinks are spiced with liquor in it. The cakes have liquor in it. Everything has liquor in it. And you get wasted, and you get as drunk as you can so you'll forget everything. It happens from now all the way to New Year's. All right. So the practice is to get to that stage, and this is where we have the term bacchanal or bacchanalia, because bacchanalia actually ties into the practice of this festivity, Christmas, where the church, in ancient times, the Romans allowed the servants, the slaves of Rome, to be heads over the masters, and they have these wild parties where they're stripped down naked, and they, do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can look it up, brothers and sisters. This is where we have in the Caribbean bacchanal, juve, and those different things. And it goes into spring festival during the time of Lent. So you got Lent with the Mardi Gras, the carnival, and all those different things. And then you have in the end of the year, the same thing. All the parades, all these things goes right back to the procession that goes into Babylon, Rome, and all of these pagan customs. All right? So it says the Celts, the Celtic people, indulged in this behavior around Easter, which led to the adoption of the Easter bunny as the mascot for the Christian version. You look at this picture, and there's something sinister about this Easter bunny. First of all, why is the Easter bunny in this winter festival picture? When I saw this, it kind of caught my attention because it makes a lot of sense. It shows how the Easter bunny, he has candles for horns on his head, and you have the phallic symbol in the back of the maypole with the ornament behind him, and he has an egg with an infinity symbol of the sun on that egg glowing, and this little boy kind of like looks a little effeminate little boy holding the hand of this perverted bunny. That's a pedophile type of thing, brothers and sisters, that we're looking at here. And the child is blushing. Let's move on. Krampus the pervert. Once the Christians criminalize orgiastic excess. In other words, once Christians took over the festivity and they call this practice something criminal or something forbidden, the Krampus fertility nexus evolved. It changed into more of a taboo stalking kind of a scenario in which the devilish figure, traditionally depicted with a swollen foot long red tongue, malevolently trusts himself on nubile women who are eternally protesting his advances but not protesting too much. So you have these pictures, if you can look at these Christmas so-called Krampus cards in Europe, it shows a devil coming into the bedrooms of the women, pulling their clothing, trying to entice them. They're resistant, but not too much, because they like to play that little game, you see. This little game here. After all, he had a foot-long red tongue. Hint, hint, something sexual here, right? Krampus postcards commemorated the holiday season. These tend to feature Krampus and his prodigious tongue assailing various Betty Page type pinup girls with his lecherous advances. So in the pictures you can see how the woman is at her door and the devil shows up with his tongue sticking out, and she is entertaining this whole idea. You find also a figure of the devil like a vampire. The picture is red. The woman seems like she's pleased with it. She's looking at the artist who's drawn the picture, and the devil has his hands on her shoulder, gently pulling her clothes down. He has a chain around her, entrapping her, and he is seducing her like a vampire. Remember, the pictures of Dracula is always seducing the women. The word Dracula, we talked about this before, comes from Dracul. Dracul is a word that means dragon or order of the dragon. The dragon, of course, is the devil. The one who gave Vladis the title of Dracul. Vladis was a prince who protected the Catholics from the Islamic armies from coming into Europe. Okay. He was made a knight of the realm of the Vatican. He was part of the Holy Roman Empire. And because of his valor against the Muslims, he was given the order Knight of the Dragons, of the Dragon, or Dracul. Okay? That term was passed on as Dracula, but the devil himself is the dragon. And we can see how this man is hovering over this woman as if he wants to bite her neck. Let's move on to our next slide. Neck Rup. Let me try to pronounce this word. Ruprecht. Neck Ruprecht. Santa's friend. This is another term of the same demon. Let me pull the screen up so everyone can see it. In the folklore of Germany, the folklore of Germany, Neck Ruprecht or Knight Rupert, which translate as farmhand Rupert or servant Rupert, is a companion of Saint Nicholas. He first appears in written sources in the 17th century as a figure in Nuremberg's Christmas procession. Tradition holds that he appears in the homes of St. Nicholas Day, which is December 6, and is a man with a long beard, wearing fur or covered in pea straw. Neck Rupert sometimes carries a long staff and a bag of ashes, and wears little bells on his clothes. Sometimes he rides on a white horse, and sometimes he is accompanied by fairies or men with blackened faces dressed as old women. So you got men dressed as old women, hags. According to tradition, Neck Rupert asks children whether they can pray. If they can, they receive apples, nuts, and gingerbread. The gingerbread boy, gingerbread man. Those dumb stories about Hansel and Gretel going to the gingerbread house. Man, why do we have our children reading this nonsense? If they cannot read, or if they cannot pray, let me repeat that. If they cannot pray, he beats the children with his bag of ashes. So this is a Catholic tradition, right? Rupert was a common name for the devil in Germany. Let me read that again. Rupert was a common name for the devil in Germany. And Grimm states that, quote, Robin Fellow is the same home spirit whom we in Germany call Neck Rupert and exhibit to the children at Christmas. Robin Hood, all in green. Robin Fellow is the same home spirit or sprite, whom we in Germany call Neck Rupert and exhibit to children at Christmas. According to Alexander Tilneck, Rupert originally had no connection with Christmas time. So we can find in this picture, you got the bishop and then you got the other guy who is the so-called anti-Santa, okay? The same guy dressed in this sackcloth-looking clothing. Let's move on to our next slide. The whipping father. The whipping father. The Pierre Fouettard. Fouettard, I don't know how you pronounce that. French for the whipping father is a character who accompanies St. Nicholas Excuse me 1 second. Excuse me, I had to sneeze there. All right. So, this character accompanies St. Nicholas in the rounds during St. Nicholas Day, December 6th, dispensing lumps of coal and or flogging to the naughty children, while St. Nick gives gifts to the well-behaved. He is known mainly in the eastern regions of France, although similar characters exist all over Europe. See Companions of St. Nicholas. This whipping father was said to bring a stick with him to spank all the naughty kids who misbehave. And as you can see in the picture, they have St. Nick with his hook staff as a shepherd or bishop, Pope-looking figure, and then you have the character who is the whipping father, or the one who accompanies him, as being a black person. You see how the Europeans depict us? Anyway, let's move on. From paganism to Christianity, the first origin of Swarte Piet, can probably found by the god Wodan, or Odin, riding the white horse. Spleenir, he flew through the air and was the leader of the wild hunt. Once again, connecting back to what we talked about before. He was always accompanied by 2 black ravens. Those helpers would listen, just like Swarte Piet. Swarte means black, okay? At the chimney, which was just a hole in the roof at that time, to tell Woden about the good and bad behaviors of the mortals. So this man traveled with these 2 ravens, and they would come down to the hole in the roof, and they would listen to the conversation. And ravens never forget conversation. They never forget certain things. And that is true about ravens. You throw a stone at them, they're going to remember you, and they will tell all the other ravens who threw the stone, and they will always remember you, the whole community. So they listen to the conversation, then they report back to this character. Now, Woden is where we have the term, I think Wednesday, okay, and Thor for Thursday. All right. During the Christianization, which is the taking pagan stuff and making them Christian, Pope Gregory I argued that conversions were easier if people were allowed to retain the outward form of their traditions while claiming that the traditions were in honor of the Christian God. So what the Pope said is, you know what? Let them continue with their paganism, but we'll put a cover over it. And, as long as it appears to be in honor of God, it's okay. That was set up by the Catholic Church, brothers and sisters. St. Nicholas tradition is one of them, converting Woden, W-O-D-A-N, to a Christian counterpart. Let's move on. Fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. Let's get a reading in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 10 to verses 12. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 10 to 12. Let's see what the Bible says.
10. Proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful work of darkness.
Have fellowship.
Have no fellowship.
Have some fellowship.
No fellowship.
Once a year fellowship.
None fellowship.
Drink a little eggnog fellowship.
No fellowship.
A little bit of spice rum fellowship.
Nope.
Some cake.
Nope.
Let's get some peppermint sticks.
Nope.
Are you sure about that?
Sure.
It's okay to send some cards out to my family fellowship.
No.
All right, read on. Have no fellowship.
And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret.
because they're all connected to orgies, wickedness, right? Read on.
But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doeth make manifest is light.
That's what we're doing tonight. We're exposing the lies that's behind these things that our people are so comfortable with, so we can be prepared for the kingdom that is to come. All right? These things are not going to make it in the kingdom. You're not going to find no mistletoes and Christmas and things like that in the kingdom. All right? Read on.
Wherefore he saith, Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light.
Messiah, Mashiach, will give us the light. Those of us that are asleep, read. Was that it?
No.
Okay.
See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise.
We must be complete in our walk, brothers, not as fools, but wise. Read.
Redeeming the time, because the days are evil.
That's exactly what's happening. We see all these things happening in the world right now. Wars, threats of nuclear war. World War III, the Pope said, is on the horizon. The world is upside down. Homosexuality is on the rise. All of these things happening, and we are still going to say Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and all that nonsense. Read on.
Wherefore, be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is.
And as long as we understand that the Most High is working things towards his kingdom, we need to prepare ourselves for that. Was that it? To verses 12. Okay, now that's fine. That's fine. Okay, that's great. So now, Krampus is the dark companion, once again, of St. Nicholas. We already talked about that, who brings his gifts during that time of the year. The kindly old St. Nick leaves the task of punishing bad children to a hell-bound counterpart, again, known by many names across the continent. He has the name as Neck Rupert, we looked at, Serda, Perkten, Black Peter, Schmutzeli, Peltz Nickel. Nickel, again, is a term for the devil. Klauboff and Krampus. Usually seen as a classic devil with horns, cloven hooves, and monstrous tongue, but can also be spotted as a sinister gentleman dressed in black or a hairy man beast. Krampus punishes the naughty children, swatting them with switches and rusty chains before dragging them in baskets to a fiery place below. That is what Christmas is all about. That's the spirit. Let's look at this image on the screen. These are some cards that you would find that many of us are not aware of. But you can see the picture of the same Krampus with his long tongue sticking out. He has a chain on him, pitchfork, and he looks very vicious. And then the other side, you can see where he enters the door of a house bearing gifts. He has gifts for the children. And some of the children are excited to receive gifts, and some of them are crying and are naughty. And he is going to select the ones that are naughty and give them a beating. Okay? Now you can see these are the blonde Gentiles. Brothers and sisters, these are European philosophies. This doesn't belong for us. All right? This doesn't belong for our people. Once again, this other slide, we can see he's a black goat figure, looking the very same way. You can see this is a postcard, and it's signed to the side, the left picture. And he has a basket with children in it. The other picture on the right side, you can see where he has children tied up, and he's bringing those children to hell. Now, the reason why the Catholic Church pushed this thing is because they wanted to keep the churches filled with people. By scaring the children at an early age, they would show allegiance to the Pope. Because no one wants to be attacked by a demon in the night. So you turn to the Pope for salvation. You turn to the Catholic system for salvation. They put these things out there to scare people into receiving Christianity. That's what it's all about. The songs, everything that it pertains to. But now it's becoming so seductive that people are not scared into this thing anymore. They simply just do it because they enjoy it. They join it because it's so festive. It's so fun. All right? Here's another picture of Krampus. This time Krampus is disguised as a type of a clown-looking figure. He has a big black fur coat on him, trying to seduce like a pervert the women, and his nose is long like a penis. If you look at his face, okay, and he has red shoes on, long feet. He has a hat in his hand, a switch behind his back because he wants to have a type of a orgy thing with the lady. Okay, so you can see the little horns pointing out of his head. He's like an old man, an old pervert with a clown pants, red shoes, and he's talking to a lady in a red outfit. All right, and then on the other side we find a red card with him with a green tongue. Looks like a boar, a wild boar with the peccary type, the boorish type hair sticking out of his head. So he's part goat and part boar. He has claws and he has a switch, bunch of sticks with a bundle of sticks in his hand. Now, it's interesting that the word faggot is a word that goes back to a bundle of sticks. And we know that a faggot is a homosexual. F-A-G-G-O-T. Let me see if we can pull that up for you all to see. Just give me 1 second. The word faggot. Let's see. F-A-G-G-O-T. And let's see. The word faggot is a male homosexual. But it says here, faggot or fagot, F-A-G-O-T, branch or twig, a bundle of these, a bundle of sticks. Also, the symbol that is used among the senators of Rome, a bundle of sticks. If you look at in the Senate in Washington, D.C., on the two sides of the podium where the one who oversees the whole Senate, there are two bundles of faggots. It's called fasces, F-A-S-C-E-S, which is an offshoot of the word faggot, bundle of sticks. Listen to this. Under the same word faggot, it says ashen, faggot, or Ashton faggot, Christmas wassail or caroling tradition in the West Country of England. Okay? So we can see how the word itself, bundle of sticks, this demon is walking around with a bundle of sticks to beat the children. He's a homosexual. He's known as a pan god. Brothers and sisters, we're not dealing with anything other than a demonic spirit behind this Christmas festivity. And all the roads connect back to Rome. All the roads lead to Rome. Let's look at this other picture here, where it shows on the left side, picture of, once again, of the same demon with a bundle of sticks. And this poor girl is praying, and the demon is standing and listening to her pray, and she doesn't get the prayer right. And I'm sure it's probably a Catholic Mary type prayer. She doesn't get it right, then he will beat her with the sticks. Flog. Okay? On the left side, we can see Frosty the snowman, in the background. And we find that the demonic goat-foot man is wheeling away a child in a wheelbarrow in the snow. And the child's dress is kicking up, and he's looking down at her. Just to give you an idea of the perversion. And Frosty happens to be smiling in the background with a bundle of sticks. Or like a witch's broom. Frosty the snowman with his pointy nose made out of a carrot, which is phallic also. So, brothers and sisters, this is the spirit that we're dealing with. Once again, another picture. We find another Christmas picture of the same Krampus again. This time, he is a puppeteer. He is controlling a man and a woman. He's controlling a man and a woman with strings. And the man has a top hat like a gentleman, and he's going after the woman with her umbrella, her green umbrella. And he is determined to get this woman. On the other slide, once again, the same picture we saw before with a close-up. You can see where this woman with her fancy hat, part of her bosom is exposed. She's at her house door, and you can see her hand is touching the beard of the goat-footed man, you know, having a sensual discussion with him. She has her right hand holding her skirt, lifting up her skirt to expose her undergarment just a little bit, in a kind of a seductive or friendly gesture towards him. And he is just rubbing his hands like, yes, I got this one. And he's seducing her. Let's move on. And this other picture. Another picture of Krampus, once again shows that he has a little girl with a mini skirt on, a pink bow in her hair, and he has her in chains, and he's taking her away. We have another picture on the right side. Right at the far left side, the bottom left side of this picture, we find a three-leaf clover. Three-leaf clover, which is, I guess, is dealing with luck, Irish luck, or something like that. Anyway, part of the paganism system. But in this picture, it shows Santa Claus as a bishop of Rome in his red outfit, his bishop hat on his head, and he's the driver of the vehicle is the devil driving along with the Christian church. And the back of the vehicle in a wagon is filled of women, not children, but women. Some of them have their stockings, their nylons exposed, their legs exposed. You can see the nylons, right? Undergarment. So he's carrying away these women. Brothers and sisters, we are dealing with a certain spirit that many of us not really aware of. Let's look at another picture. We're almost done. We're going to look at a few pictures and then we'll wrap it up tonight. Here's another picture of Krampus, like a Jack out of the box. Jack in the box. He pops out of this box, and the children, there's two little boys raise their hand, and they're afraid, and the little boy is kind of like hiding behind, I guess, his older brother or something, and the little girl hides behind the box. She's afraid. He pops out of the box like a demon. The other picture on the right side depicts St. Nicholas once again, but in his hand he has a demon. He's holding in his hand like a little child in his right hand, a demon with the long tongue, and it's curled like into a backward six. And you can see the picture of the bundle of sticks, the faggot, in his hand. All right? And he has the fish hat on his head. Moving along, another picture. This time, we see that instead of Satan appearing as a man or male figure, Satan now appears as a woman. So you can see how he's both male and female in form, right? So he's a goat-foot woman. You can see that it's a seductive woman in a black dress with long gloves on, like a prostitute. She has a flogging whip in her hand. She has a man in her basket on her shoulder, and she's catching another man who's trying to escape from her. Her feet is red, though. You can tell the feet is red. Horns is popping out of her head, and you can see that she's trying to fit into these shoes like a goat feet. Mystery Babylon. Yep. Now, on the flip side, you can see an interesting poster. I found this to be very interesting because this poster shows a train pulling up to this train station, and there's a lot of children that are being rounded up to be placed into this train, and a guy opening the caboose, the train door, like a master of the circus. You know, the guy who runs the circus? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, blah, blah, blah. And he has his top hat. He has the red coat. He looks like an entertainer opening the door to lure the children in. And right next to the train, it has a dragon breathing out smoke. And it says in, I guess it is, I guess you can say it's probably French. It says Dien de coupe des Krampus. Dien de coupe des Krampus. And I'm not sure what that means. Maybe it's destination of Krampus, I guess. Does it sound like that to you? Dien de coupe des Krampus, or something like that. Anyway, but you can see the word Krampus is showing up with a dragon, connected with children, connected with entertainment of the circus. So I found those connections very interesting, brothers and sisters. Let's look at another postcard. This time it shows Krampus flying on a plane, and he's flying all over the earth. Like Santa Claus travels throughout the air, right, to see who's naughty and who's nice. It shows Krampus with his bundle of sticks, his faggots, flying all over the earth. Then it shows another picture on the left side. The same demon has a basket. He's riding on a child's riding horse. You know the little wooden horse that children ride on? He is right behind the child, and this child is right between his legs. And the child is not looking so pleased. So he's riding right behind the child on this horse, with the child right between his legs, and he has the sticks and he has these apples and fruit in his basket. This is pedophilia, brothers and sisters. This is the spirit behind Christmas. Let's move on to our next slide. This other slide that we're looking at here presents the devil. This is another card. These are all Christmas cards where he is on a bench. A lady is on a bench and she's blushing. And the devil is right on the edge of the top of the bench, just sitting on there with his red hands tickling her chin. And she's blushing. She's been seduced. As a matter of fact, there are two benches. And if you notice carefully, it appears that he was on another bench further away. You can see the trail where he traveled from that bench, came around the tree, hopped on top of the bench, and started to seduce the woman. Once again, seduction is in play. Another picture of him on a sleigh, just like Santa Claus is on a sleigh. He is in a sleigh with children. And he has a furry body all over. Another picture depicts him as another devil again, snatching up a woman on his back and leading her away. But the thing about this woman is very interesting because her face is blushed with pink or red. In other words, she likes to be carried away. She's been seduced. And you can see that he's sweating and he's happy about taking this woman away. In the picture on the right side, we can see a woman on a chair. And this time, the devil appears in his full form, seducing the woman, and he has a pitchfork with a heart in it, like Cupid. Like Cupid, brothers and sisters. And he is touching her shoulder, and she's spread out on a chair, like inviting him. Once again, the card says Krampus on it. We already looked at Krampus being connected to Santa Claus, and Santa Claus connected to the gods, and the whole thing is all pagan, right? But we're seeing the true spirit behind Christmas, which is the devil himself. Here's another picture that I find very interesting. Yes, you want to say something?
Well, it's the same goat-foot man that is in the movie Narnia.
Narnia, that's correct.
That they introduce to the children.
Mm-hmm.
And they say it's supposed to be some kind of
Christian movie, Narnia. You see how they mix that thing up and they show you a lion as being the messianic figure. Christ is the lion. But the one who meets the children at the very beginning of the movie met the children during winter time. And he was a goat-foot man. And he was on their side to lead them to find the king who was to deliver them through this war against this white witch. He had to bring them to a witch, right? Mystery Babylon. All right, let's look at this other picture here. This time we see Krampus appearing, the same bundle of sticks, but this time it looks like an umbrella. And he's dressed as a gentleman with a top hat. And he has he looks like the Planner's Peanut guy. Doesn't he look like the Planner's Peanut guy? With the round little looking glass? Peanut, yeah. No pun intended. And he has 3 women on his back. And they're all dressed in their night attire, like a harlot. And they're on his back, and he's leading them away. One of his feet look like a hoof, like a goat, and the other one looks like a regular shoe. So it's like revealing his true nature. You don't really see the horn, but it's protruding underneath the top hat. You don't really see the bundle of sticks because it looks like an umbrella, but it's giving you a hint to know that who he's dealing with, we're dealing with the devil, because one foot is a goat foot and the other one is a regular shoe. On the other picture, it shows that you have the Christian popish looking figure with all the little babies in this big basket. And the devil is right there with him, working together as a team. A sack. So therefore, brothers and sisters, we can see this picture says Merry Krampus, because that's what it is. Let's take a look at the book of Revelations. We're going to close up with this this text, and then I'll open the line for those of you who have something to share. The book of Revelation. Let's deal with the woman. Okay? Mystery Babylon, yeah. Let's go to deal with Mystery Babylon. And let's go to Revelation 17. Okay? So let's read through this a little bit. Let's read the book of Revelation chapter 7. Read the whole chapter.
Revelation 17. And there came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto you the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
The inhabitants of the earth have made what? Have been what?
Drunk.
Drunk. And when you're drunk, you're not in your right mind, brothers and sisters. Read.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy.
So he took him to a place where the Most High can actually give with clarity, with no confusion, away from the city into the wilderness, to give him instruction of what is to happen. Now he sees a woman. Read.
And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of name of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yeshua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell you the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carried her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7th, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate, and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth.
So this woman rules over all the kings of the earth, and she has a hold over these nations through what? The wine that she has poured out among the nations. That's her doctrine. Christianity is part of this woman. Okay? It's all part of this woman. All right? So now let's, you finished with that? Let's go to chapter 18. And let's read that.
After these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils and the hole of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues.
Stay in her.
Come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that you receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God have remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she have filled, fill to her double. How much she have glorified herself, and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication, and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her, and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth her merchandise any more.
Okay.
The merchandise of gold, and silver, and precious stones, and of pearls, and fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all fine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men.
And what?
And slaves, and souls of men.
Souls of men.
And the fruits that thy soul lusteth after are departed from thee. And all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city?
So everyone is amazed. They're amazed at how this city has produced so much wealth, has basically provided for all these different nations have been really tied into this this system. It's called Babylon Mystery for a reason. Everything about it, you can't tell where it starts and where it ends. It's so intertwined into society. Very, very deep. Okay, read on.
And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate.
Judgment. So it's like she's dead, and so they take the approach of like Job. You lost everything. When Job sat in the ashes and he threw ashes upon himself, it's the same thing. The merchants, the people will be very, very heartbroken that they lost everything. Read.
Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God have avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like...
1 second. Were the apostles Gentiles?
No.
Were the prophets Gentiles?
No.
So where do we get the idea that the whole world, the whole world should be the one rejoicing over the destruction? See, because the reason I'm bringing this up is because our people have been the ones suffering under this system. It has been exploiting our people for centuries. And we are the ones that the Most High is coming to rescue. Okay? And so if he's coming to rescue us, he's taking us out from a system and destroying his whole system. So finish up what you're reading.
And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone,
and
cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatsoever craft he be.
Now imagine that during this time of the year, the people are working overtime to produce merchandise, right? All the craftsmen. Read on.
Shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee.
The millstone is used for grinding corn and flour, and cakes is on a rise. You know, all your rum cakes and pies and whatever the case may be. The people are working overtime right now to not only keep the normal supply in there, but to meet the demand of the holiday festivity, because people are going to eat and throw stuff away and waste and whatever the case may be. Read on.
And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee.
Christmas has plenty of candles lit everywhere. Read.
And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee.
It's a good time to get married too. Read.
For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries...
By what?
Sorceries.
Witchcraft, brothers and sisters. Read.
Were all nations deceived.
Okay, read.
And in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth.
Because in order for you to have diamonds, somebody got to go into the earth and dig those things up. And it's usually the poor people. Yep. If you want to have certain goods in this world, somebody has to be exploited. And they don't care about those people. People die in factories all the time. So this earth have been exploited by a system. And the Most High will not forget. You know, they think of this turn the other cheek type of thing. No, that was dealing with Israel. How we should deal with our neighbor, our brothers, Israelites. Because that's where it came from. The book of Deuteronomy, book of Exodus, the Torah speaks of this. The nations didn't have the Torah. The book, we read that today, right? As far as the other nations, they never had it. Can you get that again for me? Psalms 147. So when the Most High has to give judgment, he is going to deal with the nations. He is the one who made everything. And he made vessels of honor and vessels of dishonor. He selected a certain people to be his chosen, and he used another set of people to be another type. Okay? We already had those classes. We've already been through that. But just to sum it up real quick, the same way that we have, we take clay to make a cup that we can drink from, we also use the same very clay to make toilets. So this is porcelain, the same stuff to make cups to drink from, vessels of honor, The same porcelain that is used for vessels of dishonor. Toilet seat. What you got there? 147 and what verse?
19 and 20.
19 and 20.
Mm-hmm. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel.
Mm-hmm.
He have not dealt so with any nation.
He gave his word became flesh, and it came unto Jacob, right?
Absolutely.
His statutes and his judgments unto who? Israel. Read.
He have not dealt so with any nation.
Mm-hmm.
And as for his judgments, they have not known them.
And what does it say?
Praise ye the Lord.
Praise ye
Yah.
the Lord. Can you read verses 1 and 2 for me?
Sure. Verses 1.
1 to verses 4.
Praise ye the Lord, for it is good to sing praises unto our God, for it is pleasant, and praise is comely.
Read.
The Lord doeth build up Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
He gathereth together the outcast of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
He healeth the broken in heart, and bindeth up their wounds. He telleth the number of the stars. He called them all by their name.
Let's look at verses 2. The Lord doeth build up Jerusalem. Now remember, David was king over Israel. Israel was not destroyed. So what does he mean by building up Jerusalem? You see, he was prophesying about the future of Israel being rebuilt again. The man was prophesying about the regathering of the house of Israel. He gathereth together the outcasts of Israel. He healeth the broken in heart. These are the things that Yeshua came to do. And bindeth up their wounds, the wounds of the outcast of Israel. That's our people. Read on verses 4. That's all I need, just verses 4.
He telleth the number of the stars. He called them all by their names.
And the stars is pertain to who?
The children of Israel.
The children of Israel. You can read that in Genesis 15 and 5. So, loved ones, one last thing I want to share with you all. I would like you to look this up. We looked at Krampus, right? There's a new dance. It's been around through the hip-hop world. It's called Krumpin. K-R-U-M-P-I-N. Krumpin. It came through, and I'll probably do a class on it. It came out of a type of dance called clowning. And if you do the research behind it, Krumpin is demonic possession. And the artists actually those who actually go into that speak of how it's like a demonic, it's very, they don't use the word demonic, but they say possessed. Krumpin, K-R-U-M-P-I-N-G, which just sounds very much like Krampus to me. You just Krampus, you just take the U and shift it around a little bit. Like Santa and Satan, you just shift a few words around and you get the same thing. Let me put the camera so you can zoom in on this. Like you all to take a look at the style of the dancing.
Or Saturn.
And you'll see how it looks very much the same like the image that I put up on the screen. The satanic figure that has both children on each side. Demonic image. So, brothers and sisters, we're going to stop here. And next week, most high willing, we'll have a conversation about New Year's. From transitioning from the Christmas into the New Year's. It's very interesting. You're not going to hear this any place else because the research have been done very well to connect and show how the system really is.